Hey, Matt Squatch here. Anyway, I wanted to make a part two to my prepping video. This one's all about food and food storage. Say hi, kitty. Yes, well, cat food's pretty easy to store. So I came to the conclusion while I was thinking about what to store and how to store it for emergency situations and preparedness. And even if you watch TV shows like The Walking Dead, where they take place in kind of a post-apocalypse wasteland where they're living off of what used to be and doing a little bit of farming and everything else. It's all pretty interesting. Sorry, yeah, pet the cat. He's being needy. Anyway, it kind of occurred to me that what's really going to save the world is junk food. Junk food stores so well, and by junk food I mean processed food. Now, don't get me wrong. Since we've had the baby, we try to eat lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. We do buy organic on occasion. We try to have a balanced diet, lots of protein, lots of veggies, lots of fresh fruit, somewhat limited carbs. But when it comes to food storage, carbs and fat and protein are your friends. Basically, you need carbs, you need protein to keep going. Now, I'm not talking about living for years and years like in The Walking Dead or in some of these movies that you guys see, but I'm talking about a short term, like if you guys, the power's out for a couple weeks and there's no water or anything like that, what are some of the things that you can do? Or even a month, So you got to remember, you got to think everything that's in that fridge, once the power goes out, you've maybe got 6 or 7 hours before all this stuff, everything in the fridge is going to get warm. So you got to eat everything in the fridge within probably a day and a half. If you keep it closed to 2 days, all that stuff that's frozen is going to be thawed. You have a way to cook it. You have camp stoves. Well, so once you eat everything out of the fridge, what's left? Well, it's probably the stuff that's in your cupboards. Instant potatoes, peanut butter. But when you get down into storing specifically for prepping and rotating it in and out, you've got a couple options. One, the good old cans. What's more classic than a can of beans? But you kind of think of somebody living in the woods off of a can of beans, tuna, chicken. These things are really nice with rice. You microwave them, but you don't have a microwave, just bust them open and eat them. So, let me tell you guys a little story I thought was interesting. When we started our space program in the 60s, we had little rations. They were like little meals in a tray. They look like a TV dinner. And the astronauts, well, they don't have microwaves because I guess microwaves would interfere with their space equipment. So they have little heating coils and they'd heat up their TV dinners. Well, since the 60s, the Russians just decided to use cans. They just decided to use good old cans. Cans of soup, complete meals in a can. And I heard something the other day, now I don't know if it's true, but I think it's really funny. The Russians, to this very day, in August 2017, their astronauts that are in space still eat out of cans. And that's a great Russian mentality, is they still use cans with a can opener. Is if it isn't broke, why fix it? The cans work, they store a long time, they're airtight, they're metal so they're easy to heat up. I just thought that was funny. So anyway, let's get down to business here. You basically have 2 or 3 options. You have packaged foods, good for, maybe a year and a half. You have cans, which are good for 2 or 3 years. And you can do a lot. I think a lot of what people get overlooked in canned food is I think you really need to focus on protein. I don't know how high a quality of protein Spam would be, or, can of tuna is pretty good protein, but I think you need to focus on having your protein, your beans are a good source of protein, and your carbohydrates. Now, this particular macaroni and cheese has a packet of processed cheese. Yeah, I know that's terrible for you, but all I need to do is boil pasta and dump that processed cheese on, and I have mac and cheese. The other stuff, the stuff that's in the skinny tall boxes, you have to have milk, you have to add water, maybe ingredients you don't have, a little more involved. This is something you could make with a couple cups of water, minimally boil it, stir in the sauce, maybe dice some ham and mac and cheese. It's kind of white trash, but I'll tell you what, it's actually really delicious, and there's a lot of calories, and a lot of protein and a lot of fat, which if you're in a survival situation, you're going to need. That might be your one meal a day. It might be the only thing your kids get to eat, you know. The other thing you can do is you can take a can of soup, you know, something like this zesty, jazzy jambalaya over some of this rice. You know, break that up into 2 or 3 servings, and you got a pretty good meal there, pretty balanced anyway. But these food storages, you know, you're going to have them in your cupboards and your pantries. You can get a cardboard box, an Amazon box works good, and just stack, you know, a couple things of batteries, 2 or 3 things of canned food in there, and put it in the back of your closet. Now, these things, they sell at Costco, these big giant cans. I mean, I think I've got a couple of them with ravioli, a couple of them with chili. Chili's a good one because it's actually very high calorie. This one happens to be mandarin oranges. It was just the one I grabbed out of there. And that's 6 pounds, 9 ounces of mandarin oranges. You crack open one of these giant cans full of chili and mandarin oranges, invite the neighbors over. You could feed, you know, 5 or 6 people a good meal there. And it'll be somewhat balanced with fruit and everything else and the chili. And, you know, they're heavy, but they stack well. They last a long time, even past their expiration date. You can heat them up easy. You can build a fire if you have to. You eat it cold, you know. I mean, obviously you wouldn't heat up oranges, but the other stuff. So basically you have packaged food, you have canned food, and then you have actual survival type food. This is an EverSafe meal. Essentially, it's a MRE, which is a meal ready to eat, which is what the military uses. MRE, meal ready to eat, or meal rejected by enemy, or 3 lies in 1. It's not a meal, it's not ready, and you can't eat it. But anybody who's been in the military will tell you these things, and I'll tell you, you know what? They're actually not bad. Everything's broken into, if you can see them, everything's broken into packages. So there's main courses, side dish, 2 or 3 snack packages, usually a cookie. There's usually instant coffee in there. They give you a little heating element in a little bag of salt water. You dump it in there. So you don't need anything to get a hot meal out of one of these. You know, they could be $5 to $7 to $8 for a meal ready to eat. And I believe they come in different. The military ones are going to be in kind of an OD green or tan package, and they're set up and they're pretty deluxe, and they actually taste pretty good because it's normal regular food. They just kind of ultra pasteurize it the way they would for like a canned food, and then seal it in there in these special heavy duty seals, so they're good for many years. But the good news about one of these is if you hand these out is they usually have protein bars and nuts and cookies, and you know, you can kind of snack on them, and then you can sit down and knock them all out in a meal. They're a good supplement to this other food. So, you know, I recommend thinking about what I have in my fridge, that's going to go. What do I have in my freezer? That's going to go next. What about packaged foods that require ingredients? You know, like corn muffin mix, but this requires an egg. Do you have powdered eggs? Do you have eggs in your fridge? Do you have access to chickens? Well, even though it's a packaged food, we might want to eat that towards the beginning while I still have some eggs that might be good. Or bake them, you know. You can put them on a stove. You can, you know, if you have a gas stove, or even if you have an outdoor oven, you could probably make, instead of making corn muffins out of them, you could make little corn pancakes out of them. If you don't have an egg, it'd probably still work. So you just got to think of what you have on hand. You can put this stuff in the back of a closet, you know, put it in the back of your garage, store it up. Just make sure it doesn't get wet, and cans last a long time. So MREs are great, but they're probably your most expensive option. These big cans are great too. They don't last quite as long. And then, like I said, with the meal ideas, if you take a can of soup and put it over rice, that's a good meal. You can add Spam to mac and cheese. That's a good meal. Pretty low stuff. You can make corn pancakes and add chicken to it. The other thing is for fat. This is actually ghee butter. What that is pasteurized butter. I talked about it a little bit in my how to fry an egg video, but it can be stored at room temperature, and it's got a good couple year expiration date. So you basically have real butter that has the milk fat separated out of it, so it's just the fat, none of the milk solids. And that's a good source of fat right there that you can cook with, along with, you know, vegetable oil, or which we kind of avoid, but we also like coconut oil. So it's just a few ideas. You can have packaged food, you can have canned food, and then you can have MREs. And you know, you can put it in the back of cupboards and cabinets, the back of closets. You can do quite a lot with it, and plan on 2 or 3 weeks, plan on a ration, plan on, if you're like us and you live in a complex, plan on your neighbors being out of food, plan on having to feed somebody else. I mean, this isn't board up your doors and blast anybody with a shotgun who's knocking on your door. During an emergency, a real disaster, a major earthquake, power outages, your neighbors will be your friends. Maybe your neighbor's a nurse. Maybe your neighbor's a doctor. Maybe your neighbor's an engineer. Maybe they have skills that you have no idea. And in an emergency situation, they could get things running again, help you running, keep your community running. So having extra supplies that you can barter with, trade, give to, you give a bottle of water and a couple cans of food to your neighbors with some kids. The next day, they might help. They might help give you a quart of gas or something so you can drive out of here. Anyway, so this is just a few ideas for food suggestions. Nothing revolutionary. Now I keep a dozen or so of these MREs because they're great. They're sealed. If there's a flood, they'll float. They're not going to rust out. But those are the absolute last ditch, or if I'm on the mood. These big cans are great for like a base camp. Small cans, the big disadvantage to cans is they're heavy. So if you got to hike out or walk out, then MREs are great. You can take the bag apart, take all the individual packets, because you could have 8 MREs, but you only need like 1 spoon. You don't need all the packaging. You can really condense them down. So just some food storage ideas. Give a thought. Next time you're in your kitchen, look through your cupboards. What's expired? What's already expired? How long would you last? Think about it. Well, I could make meals out of this or that. Is it just you? Is it just you and your wife? Do you have 3 kids? Are your kids fussy? Oh, and I guarantee you after a couple days of not eating, that fussiness will go away with the kids. But anyway, also something else to think about. What about pet food? You have a couple cans on hand and you go to the store every couple days. You have a big bag of it, big containers of it. Or, you got to think about them too. Anyway, so this is the Matt Squatch here, the second part of my prepping video. The third part, I'm going to go over how I store these things, where I keep them specifically, in a couple spots to give you guys some ideas, and also how to make a bug out bag and then like a bug out box, something that'll fit in the back of your car. So I'm probably going to start doing about 1 video a week and probably keep it about 1 video a week, maybe sometimes 2, but right now I've only got about time for 1. I know I'm not very good at these videos and the new camera is expensive, so for now we're going to continue to use the phones. If you like this video, hopefully there's some good information here. I know there's nothing groundbreaking in this one, but maybe get you thinking, what do you have in there? What meal combinations? Hey, could I make mac and cheese? Could I dump some canned chicken in it? Can I dump a can of peas in there? Make kind of a, some kind of a haphazard tuna casserole out of it. But, it's all, in the end of the day, it's all about calories and food and safe food. Anyway, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. Please like, and I hope this gets you thinking about emergency preparedness. I know Daphne's thinking about emergency preparedness out there. So take it easy, folks, and thank you.